Ba, 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 ba. Mm. Yes, good evening and welcome back to the Football Tribe UG channel. Robert Kesakos is your usual suspect. Welcome back to yet another live broadcast. And tonight, we'll be getting in the thick of the conversation in as far as the UEFA Champions League final is concerned. That one is slated for Saturday, tomorrow, the 31st of May, the last day of the month at 10 p.m. East African time, or that's at 22 hours, you know. So keep your eyes peeled for that. Keep your eyes peeled for that. So that's what we're going to be discussing tonight, along, of course, with any breaking news, any news that is out there in as regards to managerial changes, transfers. Of course, a lot of news breaking in the last couple of hours, including, uh, Liverpool's second bid for Florent Bits, and then Gasperini has a job. So really, we're going to be discussing that and more in tonight's broadcast. For those of you that are looking forward to this conversation, I'm waiting on you to join us. Allow me to test our audience with the usual honors, and we'll get into the thick of this conversation, really, because I do feel that tonight is going to be our night. Yep. So yeah, got a bit of a headache, I must admit. So you'll please indulge with me. Anyways, our audios are good to go. Just waiting on you guys to join us, to join the conversation. Oh, sorry about that. But yeah, let's put that aside and get into the thick of today's conversation. Really quite there's a lot for us to discuss, to go through. Plenty action, plenty of things happening. So much news making the rounds. Bruno Fernandes has led the headlines. Anyways, welcome back to the Football Tribe UG channel. Robert Kesakos is your usual suspect. In case you're just joining us, please endeavor to leave a like on the broadcast. Kindly like the broadcast, and let's get into the thick of the conversation. Like the broadcast, and if you're new here, please consider subscribing to the channel so that you can support what we do, so that we can continue to grow and that kind of thing. So it's quite valuable to us that you do like the broadcast, as we prepare to get started with tonight's conversation that will revolve around the final of the UEFA Champions League. Yes, so we're going to be discussing that and more. Guys, kindly like the broadcast. Please like the broadcast. Do me the absolute honor. But and also let me know where you're joining us from down in the comment section. I'd like to send my shout outs to Maria Momoto, one of our usual suspects. Peter Parker was with us this morning. Mr. Leo, Abdul Abdul Aziz, yes, Abdul Aziz, the Real Madrid fan there. Safa Ali, we missed you for the last couple of days. That's the Fenerbahce fan, also an Arsenal fan, and a Real Madrid fan from Turkey. And all of you guys out there. There's a one James from India that we missed here. for a couple of days now. I hope you're all doing well, whatever it is that you are. So tonight's conversation is going to revolve around, that it's going to revolve around the UEFA Champions League final. But of course, we'll also get to speak about matters, that's transfers, because there's news that we brought in the course of the day. Alexander Trent Arnold unveiled at Real Madrid. In quite a stunning turn of events, given the way that transfer has been handled. And then we've had the reports from we've had the report from David Ornstein regarding Liverpool's second bid for Johan Vitz, sorry, for Florian Vitz. I don't know why I keep pronouncing it as Johan, but yeah, we'll be discussing that and more. Anyways, guys, please like the broadcast. Please like the broadcast. Please like the broadcast. But let's get into the gist of tonight's conversation of the UEFA Champions League. As two giants meet tomorrow night in the finals at Bayern Munich, or at the Bayer Arena or the Allianz Arena. That's in Munich, in Germany. That's where the final is going to be. And I mean, we've sort of had this conversation before, really, in hindsight. But it is PSG up against Inter Milan. PSG do not have pedigree in the competition because they've never won it. They did play in a final. That was in 2020. They went on to lose by 0-0 against Bayern Munich. That goal scored by Kingsley Coman, I think in the 59th minute of the game. And then, of course, over the last couple of seasons, they've been knocking on doors. They've been reaching in the semi-finals. At least now 4 out of the last 6 campaigns, or even up to 5, in the semi-finals. They couldn't get it over the line sometimes to reach the final. And well, this time around, they go to the final. In the course of their path to the final, knocking out teams like Arsenal at the semi-finals, 3-1 on aggregate score, and knocking out Aston Villa 5-3, 5-4, I think, was it? Because they won 3-1 and then lost 3-2. Yes, so it was 5-4 on aggregate at the quarterfinals, knocking out Aston Villa. And then, of course, at the round of 16, knocking out Liverpool after, an aggregate score of a 1-1 in normal time. After extra time over both legs. Then they went and, proceeded via penalties. And then, of course, at the playoff stage, having finished outside the top 8, they played against Brest, who they beat with an aggregate of about 10 goals. So they've been quite remarkable. We're talking about a PSG team that are sort of grown with the competition. As the tournament went on to go, they also grew with it, and they've been quite impressive, to say the very least. They've had a very, very solid team, largely made of young players, and also a mix of senior players like Ousmane Dembele, like the goalkeeper in Gianluigi Donnarumma, Marquinhos. We are talking about Ousmane Dembele is now 28 years of age. Marquinhos is 31. Gianluigi Donnarumma is 26 years of age. Then you have Vitinha, a 25-year-old. People forget that he even played for Wolverhampton Wanderers in the Premier League. And then you have these youngsters. Kivica Kvaratskhelia, only 24. Izardo is what, 19 or 20? William Pacho, that's the centre back, is only 23. Nuno Mendes is only 22. You look at Akraf Hakimi, he's 26. He has a bit of experience of coming through at the ranks of Real Madrid, and then he was bought quite expensively by Inter Milan, and then eventually PSG bought him. So we're talking about an exciting PSG team that want to write their own history, and for all intents and purposes, for those that wish them well, do believe that they really have the capability to go into tomorrow's final and write indeed their own history by winning this competition for the first time. They never won it back when it was still called the European Cup. For purposes of context, the competition was sort of the ideation was back in 1955, and that was by a French journalist called, was it Hatton? Hatton, something like that. Hatton, I think that's the name. I need to find it somewhere. I noted his name somewhere. He used to write for L'Equipe. That's the French newspaper. Yes, Gabriel Hanot. Yes, Gabriel Hanot was his name. So, and then it starts in 1956, and Real Madrid win it for the first 5 years. Back then, when it was called the European Cup, it was only played in by teams that had won their leagues domestically, and it was a knockout competition. They beat you, you went out, and Real Madrid dominated its early stages. So even when you look as far back as then, PSG have never won it. And yet on the other side, we're talking about an Inter Milan side that has a pedigree to it, because they've won the competition 3 times. Twice when it was still called the European Cup, and once since it was rebranded to the UEFA Champions League. Of course, during the time of the UEFA Cup, during the time of the European Cup, or as it was usually often referred to at the time, they won it in 1963-64 season, and then 64-65 for 2 consecutive years. Of course, this morning, their arch rivals in AC Milan who had won it in 1963. And then when you look a bit further back, Benfica had won it twice. That's the Portuguese side, Benfica. They had won it in 1961 and 62. And that also serves as a point of correction. I know in the morning I mixed up somewhere while I mentioned that. I mixed up the years a bit, but it was Benfica that won it in 61, 62, and then Inter Milan won it in 64 and 65. So, and then most recently, or over 15 years ago now, they won it with Jose Mourinho. That was in 2010, the 2009-2010 season. Also largely remembered that as the World Cup year, a year in which I thought, for me, that Wesley Sneijder was robbed of the FIFA Ballon d'Or, the same year that I thought Iniesta was sort of robbed of the Ballon d'Or, really at the expense of Lionel Messi, who won it under the guise of having scored the most goals in a calendar year. I mean, there were very many goals. He scored 92 goals that calendar year. Well, it is what it is. But that's why it sort of oftentimes rings a bell in my ears. So Inter Milan won it. That side, again, they beat up against Bayern Munich in the final by 2-0. Diego Milito scoring in the 35th minute, and then also scoring in the 70th minute as they won it by 2-0. They had players like Wesley Sneijder, Maicon, Samuel Walters, Zanetti, Julio Cesar, the goalkeeper, Samuel Eto'o was in that same side. Goran Pandev was still, I think, in that side. Sorry, not Goran Pandev, but Pavo Nedved. Yes. Then yeah, that was really the core of the team. And then Sule Ali Muntari, the Ghanaian international, was in that same squad. On the other side, Bayern Munich had players like Ivica Oric, who I think was their captain. They had Bastian Schweinsteiger, Miroslav Klose was in that squad. They had the goalkeeper called Bat. Phil Plum, as a young player, was in that squad. Thomas Muller, as a young player, was in that squad. I think was only 20 years of age at the time, or 19 thereabouts. Thomas Muller. So they were under the charges of Louis van Gaal. So they did, and one of the reasons as to why I do remember that final is because we were still in school back then, and at school people placed bets on that game, and they placed bets of who will win, who will lose, and then the game sort of hung on in a bit. As it hung on, somehow it moved into a fight. I do not know for whatever reason, but anyways, it is what it is. So that's the fixture. So when you look at the Inter Milan side, they do have some experienced players in their squad. Lautaro Martinez, of course, none of them, those players have not won the competition before. But many of them have the experience of playing these kinds of high-profile games. When you look at players like Francesco Acerbi, when you look at Lautaro Martinez, Francesco Acerbi, 37 years of age, Lautaro Martinez and Marcus Thuram, both 27 years of age. Jan Sommer is what, 36? Dimarco is what, 27? Then you have Matteo Damian, 35 years of age. Hakani Chanoglu, about 31. Henry Mkhitaryan, about 36 years of age. So this is a team that has the experience. Of course, Yannick Besic, I think, is one of the younger players, or in comparison to the others, is about what, 24, 25? They're about. So, but anyway, they do have that bit of experience in their legs. In Denzel Dumfries, he's 29 years of age. That core team of Inter Milan, and then of course with their manager in Simone Inzaghi. Of course, when you put the two on the weighing scale in regards to who is a better manager or the more experienced manager, of course Luis Enrique will preponderate what Simone Inzaghi has to offer, because Luis Enrique won the competition back in 2015 as his Barcelona side at the time won the treble that year when they beat up against Juventus in the final by 3-1, and that kind of thing. So that experience comes in handy at this kind of stage of the competition. We spoke about it widely in regards to when they met Arsenal in the semi-finals and why I thought they really had the upper hand. Anyways, then you look back at you look at all that in comparison, and you really see that the two sides are sort of kind of evenly matched. Technically, PSG have the better side in terms of the players. They do have young players, quite energetic. Like I said, they've sort of crafted well or mastered well what the kind of system they do play. It's not to say that Inter do not have their cut out for them or well crafted, and so it's to be expected that's why I say they do evenly match themselves out. You do have that in terms of probable lineups, best on probable lineups, in the way we expect things to be. On the side of PSG, we do expect Gianluigi Donnarumma in goal, Achraf Hakimi, Marquinhos, William Pacho, Nuno Mendes, Vitinha at that deep six role, alongside the 20-year-old João Neves, and then Fabian Ruiz, 29 years of age, he has quite the experience. Desire Doué, that's still a youngster, Ousmane Dembele, and then Kvicha Kvaratskhelia. So for me, that core team, the way Kvicha Kvaratskhelia is able to run down that right flank, leaves a lot to put about. If you're Inter Milan, the way Desire Doué runs down that left flank, sort of threatens any manager who is going to be guiding the team against this PSG side. The way Vitinha and João Neves have the capabilities to nick the ball off you, and if you drop the ball outside the area, Fabian Ruiz has that power strike. We did see that against Arsenal in the return leg at the Parc de France. Ousmane Dembele, the way he drops back in midfield and then, fills that bit of a pocket in case, how they try to play from the back, usually either through Achraf Hakimi or Nuno Mendes, and then they attract you to one side of the pitch, and then once you slip, they're going to play that pass to either Dembele that has dropped, kind of in midfield, and then they will have one of the two in Kvicha Kvaratskhelia or Desire Doué running on the flanks and on the flank. Once they play those ones in, you could be in for a run and that kind of thing. So it does promise to be a very, very exciting game, to say the least. Then on the other side of Inter Milan, we do expect Jan Sommer in goal. We do expect Alessandro Bastoni, Francesco Acerbi, and for me, I do think either Benjamin Pavard or Yannick Besic, who will start there. And then, of course, we all know Inter play with the back three and then a midfield three plus the wing backs, which kind of forms a back five as they retreat to defend. So that will include Denzel Dumfries on one end and Federico Di Marco, and then a compact midfield of Hakani Chanoglu, Hakani Chanoglu, and then Nico Barella, as well as Enric Mkhitaryan. Guys, please, when you join us, do me the absolute honor and like the broadcast. But also, if you're new, do not hesitate to please subscribe to the channel. Your support will be really, really much appreciated. Also, do let me know where you're joining us from and what your thoughts are about the UEFA Champions League final that will be played tomorrow. It's always a pleasure having you guys on the podcast. So, ahead of that component of the midfield and the wing backs, then ahead of them you have Lautaro Martinez and Marcus Thuram. Now, again, Marcus Thuram and Lautaro Martinez do really sort of gel together well in as far as playing as the front two is concerned. They do know who needs to drop a bit off the shoulder and then who needs to make the forward run, and it's been quite impressive to watch this season. And when you look at Marcus Thuram, last I checked, by the time we completed, I think, the semi-finals, he had about a goal tally of 18 goals across all competitions. He scored 14 goals in the Italian Serie A in 32 appearances and provided 4 assists, which in itself was quite an impressive run. We saw the kind of trouble he gave Barcelona in the semi-final. He did score that early goal in the first leg at the Olympic Stadium before Denzel Dumfries scored the other two on the evening. And then in the reverse fixture, of course, it was Lautaro Martinez who scored. Then they had the penalty that was scored by Hakani Chanoglu, and then of course Francesc Asembi that scored that third goal. So really quite players that are experienced, that this Inter Milan side can rely on. Of course, Lautaro Martinez has not had the season as good as he had the previous campaign, but with 12 goals and 3 assists in 31 league games, perhaps is underperformance by measure of his own standard, and perhaps maybe that tells you why Napoli suddenly beat them to the punch of winning the Italian Serie A or the Scudetto this season. So that's the bit of context that I can paint for you in regards to the UEFA Champions League final. Who do I think will go on to win it? It's a bit of a tough one to call, but like I've said before, there's a bit of that cynical history for those of you that do believe in fairy tales, fate, coincidences, whatever you call it. That usually the UEFA Champions League, when played at the Allianz Arena, is oftentimes won by the first-time winner, and I do not expect tomorrow to be any different. That's why I'm not sorry the reason, but the experience of the manager and that PSG team, given how I've watched them play, I do think they will get the better of Inter Milan and win it. By what scoreline? I suspect it won't be. We're not going to be treated to a 1-goal kind of final. It could go to 1 in favor of PSG. So that's my prediction in as far as that final is concerned. Of course, that prediction is subject to a change should the starting 11s come out different from what my expectations are, or because that forms the basis kind of my prediction as well. Because you never know, there can be a late-minute injury, a knock-in last-minute training. It could be a stomach upset that causes the manager to leave a certain player out, and suddenly changes kind of the dynamic of the game. But really, for me, that's my prediction. When you look at Chelsea, when they were winning it back in 2012, they were first-time winners, and they were playing against the home side, Bayern Munich, who were at home. Then you go back to 95, Dortmund winning it, they were first-time winners. You go back to 1983, Marseille were first-time winners. You then rewind it back to 1979, Nottingham Forest were being first-time winners at the Allianz Arena or at the Bayer Arena as they won the final. So really, for me, that's that goes beyond coincidence. That goes beyond sudden happenings of, but shows kind of a bit of a pattern in regards to how these things play up. Anyways, that's the gist of the preview of the UEFA Champions League final. Do let me know what your expectations are, what your predictions are, downright in the comment section, and I will read your comments, or I will add to your submissions where need be. Moving forward, let's move away from that and look at some transfer news that has dominated the day. Of course, what dominated the day for me was Alexander Trent-Arnold being announced as a new Real Madrid signing in quite a stunning fashion. Not that we did not expect it to happen, but it did happen earlier than we had expected. We all know that once Alexander Trent-Arnold announced that he will be leaving Liverpool at the end of the season, it's reported that Real Madrid picked up their landlines and called their partners at Liverpool to say, look, I would want you to let Alexander Trent-Arnold out of his contract before it actually expires, which was set to be on June 30th this summer, and then we'll pay you €1 million as a form of compensation for that. And then Liverpool said, no, we will not take that offer. I mean, who are you throwing your peanuts? Basically, they refused. And then, because for some reason, and whatever the reason is, part which I think is the obsession of Florentino Perez's desire to win the inaugural FIFA Club World Cup competition in this new format, he wants Real Madrid to win it. And so he said, go back, negotiate, find a deal. I need this player to be part of our squad for the FIFA Club World Cup. So they went back in, and that's how they arrived to an agreement to pay Liverpool €10 million as a transfer fee for Alexander Trent-Arnold, as opposed to waiting for what? The next 30 days, 31 days, and then the player will be theirs anyway. But the challenge is that according to the rules, clubs won't be allowed to add new players to their squads during the course of the tournament. So that's why you have a transfer window that is going to be opened for 10 days between June the 1st and June the 10th to allow teams in the FIFA Club World Cup to make transfers, to make signings. That's why. Of course, respective teams from similar FAs will also be making their signings. And then the window will close on June the 10th, and then you will open, I think, on June the 16th. So really, that's why. So they went back in, negotiated, and arrived at €10 million in compensation. But also, Real Madrid will take over paying Alexander Trent-Arnold his wages between now and what would have been the end of his contract, basically. So, which sort of puts the entire deal at a fee of about £10 million, because with €10 million, you're looking at about £8.4 million thereabout. So anyways, that was the major news. And of course, it did beg the question for me, are Liverpool fans going to apologize to Alexander Trent-Arnold? Because while some were pissed that he was leaving, others were even more pissed that he was leaving on a free, that the club wasn't going to get any pennies from his sale. And now they're getting €10 million. And remember, he's a homegrown player. He's from the Liverpool Academy, so that in itself is pure profit. So they get to write it on their books as profits, which is quite very good. I give it to those Liverpool minders or bosses for being quite excellent in their negotiations. So that really dominated today's news. Then the other story that was at that sort of broke through the cracks of the chaos of today's, respective news was that of Liverpool's pursuance of Florian Wirtz from Bayer Leverkusen. Now, it is reported that Liverpool submitted a second bid in the region of about €130 million, about 130 to 135 million euros as a total package. Now, that part of that, what that partly includes is 109 million pounds as guaranteed, payable fees for the transfer, and then the other is unachievable add-ons. Reports have gone further to indicate that the two have reached now a stage of even talking, payment structure. With payment structure, those are the installments that I was explaining to you the other time with respect to Matthias Cunha's potential deal to Man United. How these clubs tend to spread out these payments and say, okay, we're signing this player for this amount of money, but we cannot pay it in one whole financial year. We'll pay it over the course of 3 financial years to sort of spread our payments and stay on the right books or the UEFA financial fair play rules, as well as domestically their PSR rules. That's the profit and sustainability rules of the Premier League. So, and that kind of thing. But Liverpool are advancing well in talks with Bayer Leverkusen over the signing of Florian Wirtz. And then, of course, Liverpool, almost because of Trent Alexander-Arnold, because of Florian Wirtz, it sort of as if went under the radar, but yet it was big news in itself because they did announce the signing of Jeremy Frimpong officially for 35 million euros from Bayer Leverkusen as their replacement for a right back for Alexander Trent-Arnold, and that deal has gone through successfully. Everything is done and dusted. So we wait to see. We wait to see where that. But congratulations to all Liverpool fans. You have a new right back, Jeremy Frimpong, in addition to Conor Bradley, that you do still have also in your ranks. So that was there. And then the other news again that sort of dominated the course of the day was AC Milan announcing Massimiliano Allegri, who has joined the club, I think, on a 3-year contract. He does reunite with them because he was with them between 2010 and 2014. He spent there 4 years, so he's returned to AC Milan after several stints, mainly at Juventus here and there. So he's back in management. Then, of course, still in Italy, it was confirmed that Antonio Conte will be staying, but then Gian Piero Gasperini has also, agreed to a 3-year contract to become the next manager for AC Roma. That has been agreed after spending 9 years at Atalanta. Gian Piero Gasperini will be in the dugout at AC Roma next season. And then we also did receive reports that Al Nassr were on the verge of completing the renewal of Cristiano Ronaldo's contract for another 2 years. That means by the time that contract ends, he will be 42 or possibly approaching 43. So that was also another big news that did seep through the course of the day. Then the conversation around Cole Toure and Pep Linders over, who becomes Pep Guardiola's next assistant manager or coach, has also been raging on through the course of the day. Then we did have news regarding David De Gea Quintana, that's the former Manchester United goalkeeper, as well as I think Atletico Bilbao was he, signing a new deal at Fiorentina until June 2028. That's a 3-year deal. So it looks like he won't be making a move to France to join AC Monaco. That's according to Fabrizio Romano in respect to David De Gea Quintana. So again, it's been that kind of busy day for us here and there as a news raged on. So we wait to see how everything else will progress, especially on those deals. And then the other major story from the day, and I sort of meant it to bring this story after all the others that I've just mentioned above, is that deal of Bruno Fernandes with Al Hilal. It's just not going out of the news. Now, the reason as to why it's not going out of the news is that Al Hilal have met Bruno Fernandes' agent in Saudi Arabia. They've tabled their offer, which they've discussed multiple times. the player has not yet said no to the offer, which would see him earn up to £700,000 per week. That's tax-free money, and then they are willing to pay up to £100 million Manchester United to try and sign the 30-year-old Portuguese playmaker. Now, reports do suggest that their bid may start at about €100 million, which is about £84 million, or it could come at about £80 million for the first bid. But they are waiting for the player to say yes to them, and then they can advance to go to Man United and start negotiations. Now, of course, Man United, in one way or the other, do have sort of, I would say, do have an upper hand in these negotiations, because the player is still under contract. He's not expressed any desire to leave, although he's been reported to have been disgruntled with the club owners in the aftermath of their 1-0 loss to Tottenham Hotspur last week on Wednesday, when they lost the Europa League final. So, but he's not expressed any desires to leave the club. He's good friends with the manager, in Ruben Amorim. He's the club captain and that kind of thing. So it's sort of there. And then United do not want to sell him either, because they look at him as being a crucial member of their, of their squad rebuild and project under Ruben Amorim. So even though he turns 31 in September, so you look at that and think to yourself, if you are in Manchester United's shoes, what would you do? We all know that Manchester United, financially, they do need the money. And I mean, for a player that is turning 31 in September, of course, for Saudi Pro League clubs, they believe players in their 29, 30, those are players that still have all the energy and the power. They are still within their prime. That's why they've been signing them. The Karim Benzema's, N'Golo Kante's, Jordan Henderson, Sadio Mane, Riyad Mahrez. I mean, name it all. Cristiano Ronaldo, of course, in that same breadth and that kind of thing. So they've really signed those players. Of course, they've also signed a bit young players like John Duran, who they recently signed in January from Aston Villa, the Ivan Tonys of this world. You did have Malcolm go to the Saudi Pro League. You did have players like Milinkovic Savic, who was at Lazio. So really, those profiles are also there. But if you're Man United, I think if a good offer comes, €100 million, possibly £100 million, I'd say take the deal. Take the deal, because you're having a player in Bruno Fernandes, who is a good player, by the way, and he's shining in a very bad team, and you can't just plug him out because maybe you're thinking maybe he's not well suited to this system. Maybe he is suited to the Amorim system. But I found a conversation that was led by Paul Scholes, and he was asking fans, I think Man United fans, what is Bruno Fernandes' best position? Because we all know he loves to play as a 10. But then Man United is the same team that are buying Matthias Cunha, who also plays as a 10. Do they know what we don't? No, really? Then we've seen Bruno Fernandes being played in that central midfield role as an 8, and it's not worked out. It's not really worked out. It's not looked good. He's not that kind of player. So you think on it, and for me, £100 million, get the money. Because what does £100 million afford you? You get that, you can spend 50 on Brian Mbeumo, you can spend the other 40 or perhaps even 50 to get Yuli Tielemans from Aston Villa. That's if he's willing to join you. For me, he's one of those players that I would recommend for Manchester United to play as their 8. Maybe it's not Yuli Tielemans, but you look elsewhere for an 8. I mean, you can get another 2 players with the other £50 million. You get, I mean, you go, potentially you're in discussions with Chelsea over Jadon Sancho, for Chelsea to retain Jadon Sancho. That's if the 2 parties in Jadon Sancho and Chelsea can agree on terms for him to sort of tone down on his wages. So it really isn't far-fetched if you're Man United to think I mean, this is the highest, this is the biggest asset that I have in this team, and this is the best time that I can get this kind of offer in him, because Al Hilal are so almost desperate because they want him to be part of their squad for the FIFA Club World Cup that is going to be in the USA. They are part of that tournament, so they want him to be part of that team. So it's up to Bruno Fernandes at this point. Really, the moment he says yes to Al Hilal, then they will approach Man United. And then if you're Bruno Fernandes, the offer, the idea that you could earn up to £60 million, £65 million per season is almost crazy. £700,000 per week. I know he's not motivated, but the money is not money-minded as it's being reported. But that's a very, very tempting offer, really. It's really, really a tempting offer for the Portuguese international. At Man United, he earns about £250,000 per week, but that's before taxes. And when you factor in the taxes, he ends up with a net pay of about £145,000 or maybe £150,000, about that figure, So really, the offer in itself is quite tempting for Bruno Fernandes, and I'm sure his agent must be sort of kinda in one or the other like a bee or in his ear, or like a mosquito in his ear, saying, "Come on, take this offer. Let's go make the money." Because they are giving him a 3-year contract. By the time that 3-year contract runs out, he will be turning almost 34, and who knows what happens after that? Are you going to play until you're 40 like Cristiano Ronaldo? You could, but there's no guarantees that you will still be in the same shape, that you'll still be in demand to try and make that kind of money. He's not a poor man to say, but I mean, the money is tempting. Excuse me. So really, I find that quite interesting. So that's the other big story of the day that has sort of been waging on in as far as transfer news was concerned during the course of the day. And then Man City are trying to push things really faster to try and sign Tijan Reinders from AC Milan. We've spoken about Tijan Reinders on multiple occasions. For those of you that got to watch our video that we did, that did premiere today morning at 9 a.m., that was about Man City. You heard more about that story. They are also really pushing to sign Ryan Cherki from Lyon. So Man City are quite busy. And then Al Hilal are also in direct contact with AC Milan for Theo Hernandez. Theo Hernandez in recent days has been linked with a potential move to Real Madrid, but looks like Al Hilal are also interested. Like I said, Al Hilal are trying to assemble a squad that can compete favorably at the FIFA Club World Cup. And in their search for a striker, they are considering signing Victor Osimhen. Remember, he's still a Napoli player, although he spent last season on loan at Galatasaray. So he's top of their list. They do want a new manager, even though they have George Jesus. They've considered Andoni Raiola and Marco Silva at Bournemouth and Fulham respectively, but reports do suggest that both have turned down their approaches. But their number one target is Simone Inzaghi, but Simone Inzaghi is still with Inter Milan. Of course, it takes them tomorrow to the UEFA Champions League final. We've spoken about that, but then Inter Milan are also in the competition. That's the FIFA Club World Cup. So again, it remains to be seen how that everything around those stories do shape out in as far as this transfer window is concerned. Anyways, guys, that's sort of the gist of today's conversation, really, in regards to major transfer news and things of that nature around some of your favorite teams. And then, of course, Benjamin Sesko has been the other sort of story that has gained momentum during the course of the day as negotiations between Arsenal and RB Leipzig, began over to Arsenal's Andrea Bata is in touch with Marcel Schaffer. That's his partner on the other end to see what it would take for Arsenal to sign Benjamin Sesko from RB Leipzig. Now, of course, there's been a bit of rage amongst Arsenal fans online in regards to, I think, questioning why Arsenal are choosing Benjamin Sesko over Victor Gyökeres. And again, we've had that debate before, time and again. But for me, my response to that will be as simple as this. Trust that the Arsenal scouts, the analysts, and all the people that, look at these kinds of things have done their work, they've done their homework, and they know what they're doing. And that's why they've sort of zeroed down to, Benjamin Sesko as a primary target, as opposed to it being Victor Gyökeres as the number one top priority. So really, it's just that simple in explanation as far as that particular story is concerned. So that's the easiest way or best way I can put it in the simplest of terms, in as far as that deal in itself is concerned. And then, of course, Real Madrid they are on the verge of completing Alvaro Carreras. That's the left back from Benfica. They do want to sign him, and let's wait and see. Let's wait and see how that story really shapes. Again, this was from Sacha Tavoridi. That's a reporter who said about the deal that we're just talking about Al Hilal's interest in Simone Inzaghi's, in Simone Inzaghi as a potential manager. They said during talks with Al Hilal FC, Simone Inzaghi asked a left wing back. Simone Inzaghi asked for a left wing back and a striker as primary targets. As told 3 days ago, Simone Inzaghi agreed terms to Al Hilal and should communicate officially his choice on 1st June. Al Hilal side are confident. Now, that's come out in the last 1 hour in regards to Simone Inzaghi. Again, the source is credible in my view. They are not Fabrizio Romano, they are not David Ornstein, but such a Davo really is one of those credible sources in as regards to transfers are concerned in recent days. So Simone Inzaghi could end up be the manager in the dugout for Al Hilal for the FIFA Club World Cup. I think he possibly went over their squad and said, if I'm to join you guys, these are the kinds of players that I will join. I'd need, but I do not think that those players that he would need would be sort of hard for Al Hilal to sign. It's him they are waiting for, and like this particular story says that Al Hilal should that Al Hilal are confident that he will join them. At least they have confidence following those talks that he could join them really. So let's wait and see how things do shape during the course of the night and tomorrow. Of course, we are going into the weekend. Transfer news won't be so much, I suspect, unless there are breakthroughs in negotiations here and there on some of those deals that are already, starting to take shape and that. But be sure we will keep you abreast in regards to the latest from the world of transfers. And endeavor to check out our shorts under the shorts section on the channel because we do give you lots of content through there. More summarized content. There's content about Liam Delap. There's the discontentedness among Arsenal fans in regards to some of their summer targets. Arsenal have been recently linked with a potential move for Leroy Sané, and Arsenal fans, a section of Arsenal fans, were not happy with that news because they've gone tired of fearing their club being linked with players that are out of their prime, with the hope that Mikel Arteta can sort of reinvigorate them and get the best out of them, and it's not really worked. We've seen that with Raheem Sterling, with William Bogus Silva, and things of that nature. So it's a no to Raheem Sterling. Sorry, it's a no to Leroy Sané. Let him find a deal, common ground with Bayern Munich and stay there. Anyways, for those of you this is an announcement. Yes, yeah, an announcement. If you're interested in learning some digital skills, that's coding, web design, cybersecurity, these are soft skills, soft digital skills that are in very high demand on the global market, then you can check out our friends at Able State, based in Kansanga, Kampala. They do offer both in-person and online digital skills training sessions, as well as career guidance and help their members find jobs in the dynamic digital space post-training. They will offer you a 5% discount on any training of your choosing. Do check them out. I'll leave a link to their website, and you go check them out. So I'll leave that link down in the description of this particular broadcast, and then you will go check them out for yourself and see whether you can leverage on those offers from Able State. So anyways, so basically that's the gist of today's conversation, unless there is any questions. Apologies, Man United fans. How could I walk away without mentioning that today you played the game in Hong Kong against a Hong Kong side that you managed to beat by 3-1. Chido Martin Obi there, who you did sign from Arsenal last summer, the academy, the 18-year-old academy talent, scored a brace in that game, and he was voted man of the match as Man United won a trophy. I do not know what the name of the trophy was, but they did win. Manchester United were winners. So take nothing away from Manchester United. They did win in that game today. I simply forget who the other goal scorer was, but in that friendly against Hong Kong, yes, actually, Aiden Heaven was the other goal scorer in deep in stoppage time. Remember, Man United also signed Aiden Heaven from Arsenal. That's the young defender, 18 years of age. They signed him in January from Arsenal. So really, Arsenal obvious, they are doing the magic for Man United. Guy inspired Man United to victory. Remember, their first game against the Southeast Asia All-Stars, they lost by 1-0. That was on Wednesday in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. So this time on, they've won. They've won. Juninho scored in the 19th minute to give Hong Kong the lead, and then Chido Martin Obi scored in the 50th minute and in the 82nd minute, as well as Aiden Heaven in the 94th minute, as United won that game by 3-1. United had a total of 28 shots on goal versus Hong Kong was only 7. So you can imagine how that route could have turned out to be, as 12 of the 28 were on target for United, but only 3 were on target for Hong Kong. United managed an overall ball possession of 71%. They did make about 605 passes compared to Hong Kong's 252. Passing accuracy was 91% for Man United compared to near 70% for the Hong Kong side. There were no red cards in the game, but yeah, beautiful game of football there. United had 9 corners compared to only 1 by Hong Kong. So it was a dominant performance for Manchester United. Perhaps maybe Ruben Amorim gave them quite the speech in the aftermath of losing to the Southeast Asian All-Stars in Malaysia the other day. Anyways, Man United fans, sometimes I'm really hoping that on a good day like this, we do get some Manchester United fans on the broadcast, and we get to discuss their club in deeper breadth and strength. So let's wait and see what really will transpire in the coming few days. But that brings an end to their Asian tour, where they have to play those 2 games. So players will return home and go on to vacation. Of course, those that have been summoned to their respective national teams will go to their national teams because Portugal will be playing Germany in the semi-finals of the UEFA Nations League, while Spain are going to be playing France in the semi-finals of the UEFA Nations League. That's why players like Martin Zubimendi have international duty, Lamine Yamal, and that kind of thing. Bruno Fernandes will be in Portugal. So, yeah, that because those games are coming, I think, on the 3rd and 4th of June, and then the final will come. Then the final will come later that week. So keep your eyes peeled out for that as well. So once we're done with the UEFA Champions League finals, we will be having those we'll be having those international games in the UEFA Nations League, then the FIFA World Cup qualifiers for 2026. Yeah, and so basically that's what will be happening in the next couple of days or in the coming days beyond the finals of the UEFA Champions League. So I think that brings our conversation to our live broadcast to an end, but I want to say thank you all to those that have tuned into almost all our live broadcasts during the course of this week. It's always a pleasure having you. Those that do watch them much later after they've done airing, would not take your time for granted. We do appreciate you a great deal. And then let's meet tomorrow. Tomorrow morning we'll be live once again to talk more about the finals of the UEFA Champions League, and then we'll endeavor to come on possibly before kickoff, if that is possible. I will endeavor to come on, and should that fail, then we'll meet. Be sure we'll be having the conversation online in as far as the UEFA Champions League final is concerned between Inter Milan and PSG at the Allianz Arena in Germany. It's been great having you this evening. Have yourselves a wonderful rest of the night, and let's link up tomorrow for the conversation. But thank you so much for the love and support. You continue to show of love and support is what sort of gives us the strength to keep going in this journey, to come back here every day and bring you the latest from the world of football, from the world of transfers. So thank you so much. Have yourselves a wonderful, a blessed night, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.